It is our District 7 Club Growth Corner monthly series. And our presenters today, we are going to be giving you information about how to support both community clubs as well as corporate programs. My friend and co-presenter, Patrick Tuohy, Distinguished Toastmaster, is also our club coach coordinator this year. It's an honor to have him with us. I'll be presenting as well on this topic. The event format tonight, we're going to have some introductory comments to just let you know a little bit more about the presentation. Then we're going to dive right into Patrick's presentation. It's going to be approximately 12 to 18 minutes for anybody that's counting. And there's going to be interactive question and answer period throughout. That way, if you have questions, we get to it right away. But I do ask, wait until Patrick asks for that, just so he can complete whatever thought that he's offering on that particular slide. Same format for myself. He'll be offering how to help community clubs and more. And I'll be focusing more on the corporate end of things. Then at the end, if there were any questions that you had, but you still wanted them answered, there's going to be an open question and answer period on any club support or building question that might come up. And then just a few closing comments. First of all, I just want you to know that you are in the right place. Let's put our minds at ease and talk about who this webinar is for. First of all, it's for anyone wanting to help a community club revive energy and expand membership. Secondly, it's for anyone wanting to develop further efficiency in recruiting members for corporate programs. In other words, for someone that's in maybe a corporate club that is located at a company, but my goodness, those members are calling their brothers, sisters, dogs, cats, trying to get any guest they possibly can. Boy, that's an awful lot of work. And if it feels like it's too much work, it probably is. We're going to offer some solutions for that individual. And then finally, if we have any area and division directors, which we do, I'm so pleased, if they would like to have a distinguished division and area, these methods, which we're going to share with you, I think will promote thriving members, thriving clubs, and then we all win in that case. I also want to let you know that attendees tonight that have registered will receive these slides as well as additional resources. And I'll try not to give you too many resources, but just the ones that make sense for what we're doing tonight, as well as a link to the recording. I'll need to edit it, all that, before we put it on the YouTube channel, but that will be available as well. We're now going to dive into Patrick's presentation. His topic is essentially helping community clubs and a lot more. He's going to be sharing 3 fundamentals that you don't have to wait 2 months to get into it. You don't have to wait a month. You don't even have to wait 2 weeks. Matter of fact, you can get started with these 3 fundamentals today. To build even further suspense, I want to read you a little bit about his background. Patrick has been a Toastmaster for almost 20 years, has earned his Distinguished Toastmaster Award. He's held multiple roles, including area director, club coach, club mentor. He's also a founder of the Sporty Speakers Toastmasters Club. Currently, as mentioned earlier, he is also the District 7 Club Coach Coordinator. Through his Toastmasters career, Patrick has been a member of 4 clubs, most notably the West Beaverton Toastmasters for the last 17 years. He's held most club officer roles multiple times, including being the VP membership for 3 clubs. He's supported his fellow club Toastmasters to consistently achieve President's Distinguished status. Let's give a hand to Patrick as he tells us about these 3 fundamentals to help community clubs and more.
Thanks, Dave. Wow, I feel like important. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody today for allowing me to share with you some of the elements that I feel have made successful clubs throughout my Toastmaster career. And I'd like to frame it up that way, is that Yes, over the last almost 20 years, I've been a member of 4 different clubs that have consistently met their presidents distinguished, and they have all had a common theme, and these are the themes that I'll be talking about today. However, that doesn't make me an expert. That just says that I've been with clubs that have found ways to be successful, and I'm sure there's a lot of other ways that we can use to be successful. And throughout this presentation, if you have a different point of opinion or you have something that supports a point, jump right in there and let me know. All right, I'd like us to be a little bit less formal. The whole idea is that we're sharing with you ideas that you can take back to your clubs and have fun implementing them, and watch, excuse me, watch them hopefully make you a little bit more successful. So we focus on a quality member experience. And I think about myself as a customer. If I'm happy, I'm happy. And if I'm not happy, I'm not going to stick around. So as a club member, as a club officer, I put myself in that position, and I'm always looking at my club member experience. There's 3 things, excuse me, as Dave alluded to, that I really focus on when it comes to making sure my clubs are healthy. I look at their leadership. I look at how they're communicating and what type of communication they're having. And then I've got to gauge their enthusiasm level. And we're going to talk about each one of these as we move through this presentation. Let's start with leadership. We're all leaders. The very fact that you are here makes you a leader. Someone who is willing to listen to other points of view or seek out ways to be more successful in what you're doing. I don't know if that's Webster's definition, but I think it's pretty dang close. I like to start with the 5 Ps. And if you talk to any one of my clubs, they'll tell you Patrick's 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Or if you're talking about a speech, it's prior preparation or practice prevents poor performance. Either way, the 5 Ps are important when it comes to successful clubs. So we implement that by having regular officer meetings where we focus on the DCP. So we're having a regular officer meeting with the core group of officers that you have. And if they don't all show up every time, that's okay. We have lives. But if you can get your core group to show up once a month, and then you talk, it could only be maybe for 30 minutes, ideally 60 minutes for us. But you start off talking about the Distinguished Club program, because that gives you a rudder. What am I doing? Where am I going? The DCP is there to help you. Am I paying my dues on time? Am I putting my club rosters in? Am I getting my officers trained? And then what about my education? And if you can answer those questions, and well, I always like to say what gets measured gets done, and I'm sure I'll say it again in a minute. You're headed in the right direction. And then you have a conversation about the member experience. How many people do you have in your club? If you have, let's say, 18 people, but you only have 9 showing up consistently, the conversation is, it's great that these 9 are showing up, but why can't we have 12? Why can't we have 15? What are the other 9 doing? And what is it? Is it, the programming that we've got? Is it the timing? Is it just people sometimes lose the urge to learn, or sometimes they're scared? And so we'll talk about that during our meetings, and we'll make an effort to reach out to those folks that haven't been to a meeting in 2 weeks and say, hey, Bill, how you doing? We've missed you. What's going on? And try to start that dialogue. And a lot of times it really does work in bringing people in. As I said, there you go. What gets measured gets done. So talking to folks and finding out what their experience is. Having a mentor program has been very successful, especially for the Sporty Speakers Club and the West Beaverton Club. As people come into the club, they're looking for direction. And it's scary to be a Toastmaster and not know what you're supposed to do. First off, it's scary to be a Toastmaster and have to speak. Table topics is horrifying. But if I have a mentor, and that mentor can guide me through, hey, as timer, this is what you're going to be doing. Or your first speech is coming up. You want to talk about it? We even book the room that we have on our campus the night before for 2 hours. And if someone wants to come in, or they want to have a Zoom call and practice their speech ahead of time, it's a great opportunity for the mentor to listen and encourage. So mentor programs are fantastic. And I've got actually, I think, a whole mentor guide, and Toastmasters has information on that too. And then creating a culture with fun. I don't think anybody doesn't like to have fun. And so, hey, meetings don't all have to be fun. And hey, what happened to those formal days of Toastmasters where, people actually came to the lectern and shook people's hands and didn't leave until, that was done? I've noticed, I don't want to say the word decay, but with the advent of hybrid meetings, it's kind of difficult for those formal points of connection to still happen. So let's make it fun. Let's focus on the formalities where we can. But again, if you're having fun, people are going to come back. And how many times have you heard that your Toastmaster meeting is the best hour of the week? And if it's not, time to ask, why not? Ongoing recruiting and retention. I just want to say that your recruiting and retention is for your internal members and for your future members. You want to keep the people that are there satisfied so they keep coming back, and you want to attract new members so that you can bring in new blood and new thoughts and new ideas. And we're going to touch on that as a little bit more as we go on. So also the 5 Ps focus on meetings that are ready to go. Are your roles filled ahead of time, or are you scrambling when the meeting opens to try to fill roles? Hey, not always a bad thing to fill roles as the meeting starts, because in real life, business doesn't always cooperate. And if you can figure out how to do it at Toastmasters, you'll be more successful in the real world. But also in the real world, I want a meeting where all my players are in place and ready to go. This is the place to make it happen. Are the role holders ready? One of the things that we found is that the president will notify the Toastmaster, hey, Patrick, you're Toastmaster next week. You ready to go? And the Toastmaster then will go down the roster and reach out to the general evaluator. Hey, you're my general evaluator. Can you make sure we have enough evaluators and they're ready to go? And then also to the table topics master. Hey, my theme this week is going to be Valentine's Day. Can you come up with the table topics that mirrors that? And so we try to have a theme in our meetings, and we try to make sure that the officers or the people filling those roles are ready and on board with what that theme is so that we can have fun. And the other thing we try to do is make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak during the meeting. Yes, role holders will have opportunity to give reports and to give evaluations or give a speech. Table topics people will have opportunity to speak. So we try to fill the table topics folks in with people that aren't assigned. We even want our guests to chime in at the end of the meeting. So we welcome at the beginning, and we say, hey, at the end, we're going to ask you real quick what you thought about our meeting. And the goal is by the end of the meeting that everybody's had an opportunity to speak. So that's a lot of information. Anyone want to talk about it? Any single point there you want to dig into? No? Yes, Joan?
We've had a member that, or not a member, excuse me, a guest who's come a couple times and kind of then fell off the ship, so to speak. I reached out to him twice and I never got a response from him. Do you recommend me continue to reach out, or should I just kind of let it go? I don't want to hound him, but I don't want to, it's kind of a touchy area.
It is a touchy area, and I would recommend letting him go.
Okay.
This is my personal thing. What do they say? If you love something, let it go. It'll return to you. You can't hound folks. You can't hound folks. But what I've found is if I can make sure that my recruiting efforts are good enough, I'm bringing enough folks in, and then I'm converting enough of those to members so that my membership keeps growing.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, 1 or 2 people that if I get 50% of the folks that visit, I'm in great shape. So, and hey, remember, what do we say? Speaking is ranked more scary for most people than dying. And so, yeah, it's scary to be a Toastmaster. And especially if you've got good Toastmasters, because then it's like, oh, I got to be that good. Are you kidding me? Okay, so leaders also set the tone. And there's a lot of different ways to set the tone. When you open your meeting, how does the president come in? Do they come in and say, yeah, welcome to another Toastmaster meeting? Or are they, we have an amazing meeting for you today, but before we get started, let's talk about some opening business that we have, or let's welcome our guests. Are they bringing energy and bringing that upbeat tone to the meeting? And if they're the only person who feels that way, setting the tone you'll see it run throughout your entire meeting. And if they invite people to have fun, we will all have fun, and the meetings will be more fun. General communications, same thing. Are we talking to our members on a regular basis? And are we giving them information they need to know in an upbeat manner? Affirming statements that set the culture. And one of our most important affirming statement that we say is, we've got a couple. First off, the only way to fail is by not trying. So you can't fail in our club. It is the learning lab of life. And if you're going to make a mistake or learn a hard lesson, you want to do it around us, because we're going to be in your same shoes next week. And there's no judging. We're here to help you get ahead. I'd much rather fail at Toastmasters than I do in front of my boss at work. So you can't fail unless you don't try. Those are the type of affirming statements that we want, so people feel comfortable and that scariness kind of goes away. Maintain and enhance self-esteem. This is very important when it comes to things like evaluations. We don't ever criticize. That's the C word. Okay, critique is okay, but we're here to share our thoughts on what you did well and some ideas on what you might consider to do better next time. And it is important to have those, we call them warm fuzzies or cold pricklies. It's okay to have cold pricklies, but you can't tear someone's self-esteem down. You know what I'm saying? Patrick, I don't know what you were thinking. Your opening was terrible. Oh, damn. That's not good. We recently had a member, we have a new member in Sporty Speakers who is blind. So it's it's interesting for the rest of the club, and they've really accepted her into the club. And she's a DTM, so she's been around a while, but she's taken a long break. And her goal for her speech was to break off the rust and get back into her comfort zone. And her evaluator started off by saying, well, Joy, it's quite obviously you lied about your skills. And he paused, and the entire audience, including Joy, just busted up laughing. It was so fun. And he went on to have some really good pointers for her, but it set the tone right off the bat. We're going to have fun, and we're not going to take ourselves too serious. So please maintain and enhance self-esteem is one of the most important things. And then embracing diversity. And diversity can be anything. It could be, different shapes and faces and colors. But what I like to think of diversity as different ideas that are brought by people with different experiences in their lives. And I love getting new members because they're constantly redefining what good speaking is. And for somebody who's been around for 20 years and thinks they know it all, to have somebody walk in on their icebreaker speech and put me on my butt because, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, or I never thought to present it that way, constantly tells me I've got something to learn. So that diversity really does help make a well-rounded club. And then recognition and appreciation. We're a volunteer organization. None of us have to be on a Zoom call at 7:24 on a Wednesday night, but we're here because we want to. And you know what? Thank you. Thank you for attending and for participating. And we want to recognize our members the same way. So recognition, there's a lot of different ways. We do it in the meetings. We also do it on our webpage by doing recaps of how meetings went. So this is an example of a contest that we had where we show all of our contestants and how great they are. And then we show us a photo of all the winners or of all the club with the winner in front. That photo on the bottom there with Dottie Love in front of the winged goddess Nike, that became our club website photo going forward. And it worked for a long time. We can do a focus on a specific individual, and in West Beaverton, we do have a member of the month spotlight where we get to know them a little bit better. How do you think they feel? That's special. We talk about icebreakers. Here's Jason did a great icebreaker speech, and we reinforce the efforts that were taking place that week while showing others outside the club, hey, this club looks like it might be fun. Maybe I ought to check it out. And then we recognize long-term and special achievements. Like this is Del Weaver. He's the founding member of West Beaverton that opened or was chartered in 1986. And he just last retired, but he'd been an active member that whole time. And we celebrate every year on Founders Day, if you will, Del Weaver and the club. And that made Del feel great. And that's probably one reason he stuck around for so long. We also do things like Spark Plug of the Year. This is a club level award where we recognize somebody who's really helped the club go other than an officer, like the club president. We expect them to go. But it is funny that most of the Spark Plugs of the Year end up being president the next year. Kind of funny how that works that way. And we even start when you're a new member, giving you a new member certificate right off the bat. And we love it if it's in person because we've got that physical shake hand certificate. And if not, here's your PDF. We recognize you during the meeting and we want you to know that you're welcome and we appreciate you. So recognition is kind of very, very important. So before we go too far, I want to stop and talk about recognition. Dave, you got a hand up.
Yes, and I was actually going to probably ask Joan's question because she asked it in advance. And Joan, tell me if I'm stealing your are you going to ask about the collage? And I think you might be
That was
muted.
exactly what I was going to ask, how he was able to get those pictures on the screen like that.
So
Putting the collage together of that's the great picture on the far left, the sporty speakers picture, and the collage they did next to it. They're all really good. How do you do it?
So, you know, believe it or not, it's all PowerPoint. So I went out and I went to the Toastmaster international site and pulled down some of their communications collateral. That's the starburst you see in the background and the little globe.
Oh,
And I use that as my background. The colors are official Toastmaster colors that we pull down. And then I just either take screenshots, or if I'm in the room, I take it with my phone and then I import it into the PowerPoint and I make arrangements, and there's features that make you soften the edges or scale it or crop it. And then I just come up with I try to keep it simple because I don't have time. And so I have a template and you can see that the headers are all the same. And I just try to make a different message every week. Sometimes I put everybody's photo in there and sometimes I just focus on one person. But the key for me is, and we'll talk about this in communication, is to change it up often. Once it gets stale, then it's stale. But if you can change it up weekly would be ideal, or every other week. People come to the website after the meeting to see what was said about me. What did they say about me? Did I make the web page? And it's goes back again to the retention piece. People want to be recognized. Karen, did you have a question?
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joan.
No, I was just going to ask, is there a written something that we can follow? Because I know nothing about technology. I would love to learn this kind of stuff, but is there like a class I can attend, or something I can read and how to do this?
Yeah, well, other than maybe connecting with me separately and we kind of walk through, I'm happy to share the template with anybody. And then you can basically cut out what you don't want or change what you like to meet your needs. And then I take a screenshot and upload it to the club site.
Yeah, ours would have to be screenshots since we don't have a person-to-person meeting. So that's another. Okay, thank you. Could you leave your email address in the chat or wherever? Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
Okay, now I'll be quiet.
Okay. And Karen, how about you?
I just wondered, are you using Free Toast?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Shoving a picture into that little place is not always easy, but I've managed to get by with it. But I guess all it matters is experimenting with it. You put it in there and
these are
size
all
it.
These are all JPEGs of my PowerPoint presentation. And then I put it in there and I'll save it and then I'll go and look at it. And if it's stretched or skewed, I come back in and readjust it until it looks good.
Oh yes, I've spent hours doing it. But I just wanted to know. Thank you. Because I can figure out the whole if I know what the parts are. Thank you.
You bet. Again, I'm happy to take, 20, 30 minutes with you and do a screen share and walk through what I do to get my information into the website. And I've done it for so long, I probably don't even think about it anymore. Okay, let's keep going. I don't want to cut into Dave's time too much here. Actually, I do because I love to talk, but I want Dave to be able to talk too. Okay, communication. We want to have regular communication. We just talked about that. If we're not talking on a regular basis, people feel left out and things get stale. We want to talk about the meeting before it happens. Hey, we've got a great meeting coming up this week. We've got a Valentine's Day theme. I'm still looking for a evaluator number 1 and a table topics evaluator. Who's going to step up? We want to do it during the meeting. Hey, welcome to the best hour of the week. We've got an amazing meeting for you with 2 great speakers. Let's get to it. And then after is just what we were talking about with the collage on the website, where people can go and look and say, oh my God, that was a great meeting. Look, I made the website. We want different types of communication. So we just talked about it, the pre-meeting email from the Toastmaster. Having a complete agenda is really a nice touch. We do the meeting for those folks that come into the room. We're starting to do agendas again. We got to get into how do we send that electronically? And then same thing for contests. I want to have a contest agenda because that's kind of cool to have in your hands, especially if you're a contestant, to see your name. And then again, updating the website on a regular basis so things don't get stale. And then you saw what we did with certificates. Our club secretary will send out a meeting recap, no longer than a paragraph, just saying, oh my God, if you missed the meeting, this is what you missed. And again, if I missed the meeting and I get that recap, I'm like, dang it, I missed it. I need to make it at the next meeting, because you know the one you miss is always the best meeting of the year, right? And you don't want to miss that. And then if you have a social media presence, keeping up on that is good too. We have a Facebook page where every sporty speaker and every West Beaverton Toastmaster in the last wherever since Facebook came on is still a member, is still on that Facebook page, and it's closed to everybody else. So we have a safe environment. And we'll put things in there. And it's funny because every once in a while we'll get somebody that's been gone for 10 years to write a note saying, oh my God, I miss you guys so much. And sometimes we even get them to join in on Zoom. And then always highlight why it's great to be a member. Our club is great because fill in the blank. And then here's a couple more things that we do. You can see we have the Valentine's Day recap in the top corner, and it's not a lot of effort. It's just a graphic, and I imported a couple pictures and made them round. And then it had some text that I put in there. Recapping next to it is we've got a new member here. When somebody gives their first icebreaker speech, we give them some icebreaker candies and we take their photo and then we publish it. And it's kind of a special way for them. And you can see sometimes I put lots of different photos in there so people can go look. And other times it's just 1 or 2 or 3. So sometimes there's no photo at all. It's just an image. So want to be treated like royalty. That's an example of pre-meeting communication. Ooh. Oh, look, they're all leaving now. That's interesting. I didn't know it was going to do that. Go away, go away, go away. And then don't forget fun events. There's a lot of different type of events. We do Christmas potlucks, Christmas white elephant gifts. Contests are fantastic, fun events that have a lot of different elements that we want to highlight. We do St. Patrick's Day meetings, and we have a lot of fun with it. We have Thanksgiving potlucks and maybe extended table topics, and then same thing again for Christmas. So there's always an excuse to have fun, and we do it every week. At Sporting Speakers, it's every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. and West Beaverton, it's every Tuesday from noon to 1, and they know that. And I think, as you can tell, enthusiasm is a big key. So bring the energy. This is Alicia Hamilton. She's a second-year Toastmaster and our president at West Beaverton this year. So she got thrust into that leadership role, and she brings the enthusiasm and sets the tone, and she does it so beautifully. And you can tell just from her smile, that's what she's doing. Again, before, during, and after, the leaders always set the tone. We have those affirming statements that set the culture that people live to, and we have fun. We want to have creativity, have fun, humor, and an upbeat theme. And those are the things that have made our club successful in the community. And I hope that this has been helpful. Again, Dave will share those with you. And if you've got questions, my email is in the chat. I'm super happy to answer any question that you have. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dave. Thanks, Dave.
My goodness, big hand for Patrick. Thank you so much. The 3 fundamentals of leadership, communication, and enthusiasm, all things that we don't have to wait 2 months, 1 month, 2 weeks. We can start today. And I hope you're as enthusiastic as I am to see that presentation. Great job, Patrick. Wonderful tips for us. We're now going to proceed into the section that I put together for you regarding corporate programs. the source that I'm drawing from in this presentation are specifically from Pat Johnson. She's a distinguished Toastmaster, past international president, and specifically her method. I'm going to share two aspects that she has brought to our attention. The first one is a book that she wrote. It's a Toastmasters Corporate Programs Handbook. There's a longer title, but that's the topic. And I'm going to show it to you in a second. So if you are interested, you can refer to it, even pick it up yourself. And then secondly, she has a video featured on our District 7 YouTube channel. It's within a playlist that we created. It's called D7 Club Growth Corner 2022-23 playlist. This is what the book looks like. The full title is A Handbook for Building and Sustaining Vibrant Toastmasters Programs in Corporation. And you can see her picture on the one to the right at the bottom left of that particular image. And this is what the video looks like at the YouTube channel. It's just called Toastmasters Corporate Programs, parentheses clubs, strategy for starting and developing. Number one fundamental, if you remember only one thing about this aspect of the webinar, I want you to remember this, or I encourage you to remember this, which is develop that relationship with your company's HR department or manager specifically. Now, in any relationship, let's face it, there are some expectations. What's expected of you? What's expected of me? What are we going to offer to this particular company? This is what we have to ask, coming from TI's perspective. What value can we offer? Now, there's a lot more we could say about this, but these are some of the high-level fundamentals. First of all, we need to make sure that they know that there is a return on investment, ROI. Specifically, the training that Toastmaster provides, whether it be public speaking, leadership, communication. And I think that this is particularly useful offering to their entry-level managers and leads. I'm speaking from experience this year, having helped a couple of corporate programs, and this seems to be a place that we go. Now, the other thing I want to encourage you to do, depending on who you're interacting with, is always be a good listener. A lot of people start just giving the sales pitch before they even know what the individual is looking for at their company. I always start off listening. So I have this sort of in the background if I need to talk about more benefits, but these are some of the high level basics, but I encourage all of us to continue to be good listeners. Expectations on their part, what is going to now give us this efficiency in recruiting and all that we talked about, so that individual Toastmasters corporate program members are not calling their brother, sister, dogs, cats to come in and join as guests. But in fact, what we're wanting is some support. Let's describe some of that. So first of all, we are wanting funding for the startup costs, which some of you that know Toastmaster, I think everybody here knows that's called chartering. And then as well, we would like the participants, or members as we'd call them, to be covered. And in the documents that I'll be sending you, I have that down to the penny, actually, in case you're just sort of curious or want to use some of these materials. As well, we would encourage a company to advertise on the company intranet, both regarding ongoing recruitment. And again, we stress this so that individual members are not getting overloaded, wondering why are they so busy, and getting to the place of just really struggling to manage time and energy. And then secondly, promotion of participant-led workshops. In other words, we often know what that means is open houses, sort of feature what a bit of a try before you buy, if you will, for individual participants or members. And we encourage this Toastmasters program to be included within the hiring package of generally training opportunities. More about the relationship with your company's HR. The 3 scenarios that I want to run by you. First of all, one thing that can come up is you might be already in a Toastmasters program, but it's more of a community club that happens to be located at a company, but yet you are in that overloaded place that we're talking about, and you want to transition to a little bit more of the support that we're talking about. So that's why we're calling it community to corporate program. Second scenario could be maybe you are an employee at a company and you would like to start a club at your company, and you will be soliciting to HR for both the support and the funding. And then the third is maybe you're talking directly to the HR manager or decision maker of some sort. These are three scenarios, but among all three of these, there is a common thread for requirements, which is in fact that we want to speak clearly and with common vocabulary. My goodness, we get so passionate about Toastmasters. We want to start talking about every little detail and about contests and this and that. But actually, that's a little bit more of a conversation about features that they haven't even expressed a need for yet. So I always encourage people to consider talking about the benefits to their company. That's where that listening comes in. You get to know what are the pains that we can help solve for them. What are their interests? So talk about the benefits, not the features. A device to get this common frame of reference, if you will, and sort of built into it, it ends up to be, again, more of the benefits, not the features, is what Pat Johnson calls corporate speak. It's kind of a funny name, but what that means is instead of talking about a Toastmasters club, because someone that is a decision maker that's in charge of whether money is spent might be like, well, I don't know if I want to spend money on a club at our company, but I do always invest in training and programs. So, okay, that's why we call it Toastmasters Corporate Program in that case. Same thing, tuition. Again, we're used to the idea that you would pay for this training, maybe a tuition of some sort, but dues could be something completely different. This could be more of a requirement for a trade or that sort of thing. It means something different to a company than it does to us. Leadership roles versus club officers. In other words, if Madam President, Mr. Vice President Education, it sounds a little formal, a little stuffy at times if they're not used to parliamentary procedure, that sort of thing. But they are used to having leaders within their company. Along the same idea, leadership training versus club officer training. It's going to be a little bit more relevant, I think, to their understanding. Curriculum versus paths or pathways. Now, I created an entire web page called the Pathways Learning Center. So believe me, I'm often tempted to go start talking about pathways, but it's, I think, more appropriate to call it a curriculum. It's the value proposition that they're going to be investing in. Now, the thing that I do want to say, actually, before we progress a little further, is on that topic. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and connect with you here, just so I can see you all. This is my interpretation. I don't want to speak for Pat Johnson on this. The corporate speak, sometimes it's described where every corporate program that you're working with, now all of a sudden we have to switch to all the team leaders, all the participants only using corporate speak. And then there's this vast project as a district leader that I literally have nightmares about, thinking like, oh my God, how are we going to create this entire, I'm going to call it what it is, club officer training to coincide with, it's huge. Now, the good news is this year I found a bit of a solution. So instead of months or years trying to create this, you can learn this in one day. And that is, if you are aware of the fact that if someone already knows some of this vocabulary, we don't have to erase that from their vocabulary. In other words, if I'm speaking to a decision maker, they're not going to join the club. They don't particularly have interest in joining our Toastmasters program, but they just want to know, is this going to pay off for my return on investment? At that point, I'm going to be using these corporate speak terms and other things that are relevant. But for example, I just started a corporate program a couple of weeks ago. And guess what? They know exactly what a member is. They know what a club officer is. They know what these terms are. I wouldn't insult their intelligence by trying to just erase that knowledge from what they know. Or other times I've run across people that have been in Toastmasters for years and maybe dropped off. they know about this material. So I'm not too worried about not using that vocabulary with them. I think you want to make sure that we have the principle in mind. Now, this is my interpretation. I don't want to speak for Pat Johnson on this, but my interpretation is the effect is we want to have a common frame of reference so we know the words that we're discussing together. If you would like to be using that vocabulary for everything, that would be a choice that I would certainly welcome to you. Any questions? I know I just gave a lot to you, and I'm also going to be following up some other resources, including email templates and things that I've used, if that's interesting. Any questions on these topics that I brought forth? I see several things in the chat that I haven't had to look at. Patrick, can you tell me what's in the chat? Would you like to help out in that regard?
Yes, I had made a comment about having 3 community clubs based at Nike, which is obviously a corporation.
Yes.
And so we live and work under the umbrella of Nike, but we're not a corporate club. So I said that to illustrate the fact that we can have non-Nike folks come into our clubs. So it's about 50-50. And if we ever want to expand into focused more on Nike, that's one way we can do it, is go to HR and say, hey, we've got these great programs. I would say it's very interesting that from a grassroots perspective, all of our clubs are making inroads into our networks. So the Women's Network has a speechcraft course that they put through. Basically, they run a Toastmaster meeting for their members. And we've been asked, there's an engineering team that does a monthly meeting, and they've done a Toastmaster meeting with Toastmasters giving speeches and references. And we're coming up tomorrow. I have a run through of a presentation that we're going to do for a 2-hour speech craft with the tech teams. And if you've got a tech component in your organization, they would probably love Toastmasters because they really need that interaction. A lot of folks in the tech group are introverts and want to know how to speak better.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Patrick. Big hand for Patrick's contribution. Appreciate that. And Tom, you had several comments, some humorous comments. Anything in particular you wanted to share with us from the chat, or has it all been addressed in the chat?
It's all been addressed by me in the chat. So yeah, I am good to go.
Oh, excellent. Appreciate that. Any other things? Harvey, did you have your hand up? It looks like, oh no, you're good. Okay. This is great. Anything else going once, twice, 3 times on this topic? Wonderful. We're going to head back to the slides here. Great. We're now going to open it up briefly for really an open question answer period. Any questions that you have at all, whether it be technical, like Joan talked about, creating these flyers, anything to do with what we've talked about and more, really about club program support or building. I'll be moderating. Actually, we're pretty informal around here. I think we can, both Patrick and I can see the questions coming in. I'm happy to moderate generally, and we'll both answer the questions. Let's talk a little further. Anything else come up that you would like to ask us just while we're all here together? Karen, you raised your hand.
I'm going to hammer this to death. Poor Patrick, he probably will take off. But in order to have that page, I don't think it's the real home page. Maybe it's the home page, and then you have a secondary page with the the contact information and the Zoom link and all the usual stuff.
I can show you. It is the home page. And when I go into the admin console,
I know what yeah, I have enough knowledge to be do really well or be incredibly dangerous. But I do, and I wished I had more time. I am an introvert myself, and I love to do web work and like that. But it's just, I just have too much on my plate, but I'd like to have a crack at it. So are you available? Your email's in here.
Send me a note and we'll find a time that works, and then we'll do a screen share, and I'll log on to the website and I'll go through exactly what I do. I'll erase the home page and I'll add it in and show you all the steps I do.
Well, this would be a good thing to share, especially since this club website contest is going on.
Yes.
The whole purpose is to not just to win a prize, but to shape up or ship out, because the website is what people see first
It is.
nowadays. They
I
don't walk
really,
into a room anymore.
I really,
And if we need to look at that and really have something to offer.
yeah, I credit our
Whether or not we're in an official contest, it's good for us.
Great,
I think-
excellent.
All
Thank
right,
you,
I'll get a
Karen.
hold of
because of the website. Yep.
Great. And then Joan had her hand up, and then we'll go to Harvey in our brief time we have left.
I'll only take a second because you pretty much answered everything that I was going to be asking you. You answered it with Karen. And so I will be, where did you go? There you are. Jumping around the screen. I will be contacting you because I would love to learn how to do this.
You bet.
Thank you so much for shaping me. I'm a piece of putty now. Yay.
Thank you, Joan. Really appreciate that. And Harvey, we'd love to hear your question.
Not exactly a question, but I did, we used to meet, this was Blue Ox. We used to meet, I think several times used to meet in the state office building. But we used to meet in a conference room next to the cafeteria. There's a lot of traffic there, physical traffic. Problem is, COVID came around, whole
Mhm.
building shut down.
Yep.
And the building is still essentially shut down. The cafeteria is still closed. And we're essentially mostly Zoom, but we had one member that had the equipment for a hybrid meetings. And we meet once a month in physical and hybrid, and virtual and hybrid and physical meetings. So at least we try to get 1 month.
I love
And COVID has had a big impact
Yep,
Yeah.
it really
on
has.
offices.
Yep. Thank you, Harvey. I appreciate that. And if you ever need support, we're all in that same boat. We understand that. Thank you, Harvey. Any other questions or anything anybody would like to share at this time?
I'd like to make an observation around we're around membership recruitment, if you will. So Nike is a corporation, and our clubs are operating at Nike, but we're not corporate clubs. But we do tap into the review process. So every year at Nike, corporate employees get a review. They get a mid-year review and a year-end review. And our fiscal year starts in June. So we get our brand new review starting in June or July. And then we get a mid-year around December, January. And so we put in our intranet, hey, are you looking to get better at public speaking? Come check out one of our 3 clubs. And we're really good about promoting each other, because we don't care where the members go as long as they go to a Toastmaster club and they get what they need. And we've actually got a lot of members who jump from club to club to club. And then at the year and mid-year, the employees, their boss will say, hey, this is what I really need you to work on. And a lot of time it's public speaking. And it's also New Year's. What a great resolution is to get better on your public speaking. And so we consider doing open houses at those 2 times of the year. And they do really help bring folks in.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about in a corporate environment. Leverage that review period.
Yes. And I think that is consistent. You might remember the title or the topic was Patrick would be helping us with community clubs and more. And I think that's exactly the instance of that. We got one left, and then we got to progress forward. Karen and Sally. Actually, Karen, do you mind if I call on Sally?
you-
I haven't
Yes,
heard from her
go
yet?
ahead.
Okay, Sally,
Yes.
please.
Yes, I would like to just say that, when you hit it, you know it. And this training really hit it, because what I have observed is that all of your words of wisdom, and I picked up a few that I may not have had, but they are spot on with the philosophy of District 57. Having fun at meetings, changing it up, welcoming guests, welcoming members, following up with people. I mean, all of those things that you talked about in this session this evening are things that we go after as well. So it's nice to be, I can't think of the right word, I'll use verified, that's the wrong word, but reinforced in terms of what we're doing.
Totally
in our,
guess.
in
I
our
agree.
district.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. And that's Sally, District 7, District 57,
Great.
Club Growth Director. And Tom, you had your hand up, and then we'll.
But only, actually, I saw Karen's hand hand raised before mine was.
Well, I'm just calling on people that haven't talked yet. If you wanted to talk.
Oh, okay, sure. So this one thing I just thought of that I know it seemed to work well back when we were still meeting in person. Is a lot of people seem to be more willing to join if you throw an application at them with at least the club information and ideally your name in the sponsorship slot.
Mm.
Like the second that a guest shows up to their first meeting. And if you're able to fill in their information too in the application, so that way it saves them even from having to do that much effort, makes it
Yeah.
even better. And like I know, and now they may not necessarily join your club, because I did notice I got credit for sponsoring a new member when I gave him an application at Liberty Talkers. Yet he never joined us yet, so I'm assuming he just joined a different club, and I still got credit for sponsoring. So yeah, so it is something that worth doing. Just, basically throwing an application on as soon as you lay eyes on.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate you sharing that. And Karen, you got the final words of wisdom here before we close more officially.
No, I haven't got any real wisdom. Some, but I just wanted to comment on that, follow up with the secretary summarizing the meeting previous. Years ago, Harvey and I coached a club in Beaverton, and we were busy teaching them things, but this is one thing I picked up, that it was the club president. She would take the time to write this nice summary and tell who spoke and all the rest of it. And I wondered if over the years, it's always, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you don't get quite to it, or people aren't enthusiastic, so it falls through the cracks. I just wondered if you've gotten any feedback from that. And does that really help set up the camaraderie and get people to the retention factor, create retention and keep the enthusiasm going?
Patrick, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, from my opinion, Bill Hernandez, who's a longtime Toastmaster and been got some nods there. He's our club secretary, and he takes the time every week to write a recap. And it's not a page. He thinks about it, and then he creates something like a paragraph long. If we have a fun table topics presentation with a slideshow, he'll include that so people can see what was talked about. But it's just high level. Natalia, our first time Toastmaster, did an amazing job setting up our Valentine's Day theme and talks a little bit about that. Talk about speaker 1, speaker 2, and maybe table topics, and then a nod to everybody else who participated. But every week when it comes out, I want to see what he wrote. I want to see if I made it into his notes. So yeah, I think it does work. It's another tool to make.
Oh, now I see what that's all about.
People want to know. I
Oh,
want to
no,
see
there's
my
no
photos
ego.
on the website. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. We're
I
now
love the
going to head
data.
to the.
I'm sorry, I'm a data person. I just like to add.
That's
now.
great. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. One more hand for Karen and Patrick on our last statements there. Thank you. We're going to now head back to our slides. Just want to, again, just make some personal thoughts and notes of appreciation. I've been wanting to give this webinar for months and really just trying to think, how can we service not only getting new clubs, but in fact, how can we service our current clubs that need help? And I am just so honored that Patrick has shared his information, those 3 fundamentals that we can learn from. And I've tried to share some of these lessons that I had no idea about before the beginning of this year. And through teamwork with actually Sally, she's at our peer meetings each month. There's a lot of shared wisdom in our district. And then when I hear your personal information, your thoughts, your questions, I'm so appreciative of this. And Patrick, would you have any final words that you would like to share before we close as well?
No, just again, thank you for being leaders and wanting to, even if it's just validating what you think works right. And I've always found that attending these, I always walk away with one or two nuggets that I can say, hey, I didn't think of that. And it's, let me give it a shot. So thank you for attending.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrick. I very much appreciate that. Finally, I just want to share what I think is appropriate in this case of the topics we've been discussing, which is the Toastmasters International Envision Future to be the first choice provider of dynamic, high value experiential communication and leadership skills development. And from a personal note, I just want to thank you for helping us grow our Toastmasters community one member at a time. Thank you so much for coming. Big hand for all of you.
Thank you for setting this up, Dave. This was great.
And we give you the rest of your night off.